And there we go again. Welcome back to the Divine Emperor or the Dead Emperor's Cost, depending on what you want to call it. Now I'm going to go through a PvP build, which I've really started to like lately. And that is 11 gate into 3 gate pressure. Now, the problem with PvP is often that there's a lot of build order wins. It feels like you start with Robo and then he might have gone Stargate and then, oh, I can't really do anything about it, he's going to roll me most likely. And I never have liked that kind of randomness in the matchup, so I've always been the one to take an aggressive initiative, which you can see by my triple stalker, 4 gate and stuff like that. I wanted something not as all-in-ish though as it, but still managed to do a lot of damage. So I've found the 11 gate 3 gate. Basically, you don't chrono boost once the pylon is finished and you're over 10 supply. Instead, you just produce up to 11 probes and get your gateway as soon as you can afford that. Earliest I think is around 125 and or 26 if you do mining pairs correctly and that kind of stuff. Then you can start chrono boosting your probes, going up to 14 and then getting the gas as usual. 13 or 14 is kind of similar, depends whether you want those extra minerals or not. But yeah, pretty standard. Then you get a second pylon, so you can get salt and stuff like that. Get a second unit without getting supply blocked. Go into the gas, and then you get the cyber core at 15, which is pretty darn early. And that is also when you scout, because when you go 11 gate and you only use 1 chrono boost on probes, your minerals are going to be limited at the start, and to make up for that you need one like the scouting probe, mining instead of scouting in the beginning. So you just do some early game scouting, going around, getting a cell-out, just continuing with probes, no need to stop just yet. And now, yeah, no chrono boost between 12 and 14 either. You're going to save it up just like when you do a hardcore 12 gate 4 gate. So start chrono boosting warp gate research, get the stalker up, and taking a second gas when you have 19 probes at 22 supply. And this is basically because you don't want to make it an all-in, you want that second gas so you can start adding tech. This is more of a pressure build, which is kinda to damage the opponent, or at least decide the flow of the game, so you can kinda, you know how to react to everything, and you got everything under control pretty much. Cutting probes for a little bit, just chrono boost in, adding 2 more gates the moment you can afford them. Kinda late, like 5 seconds on my gates there, but yeah, it's a very technical build, so like if you're going to execute it perfectly, you are going to need some practice. And after you put this down, just continue with probe production again. No second stalker, just continue probes up to you have 24 probes. And that should pretty much do it for a 1 base saturation, because then you have 18 on the minerals and 6 on the gas in total, which is pretty much optimal. Yeah, some stealth fighting. Now my probe has scouted everywhere except here, so I know that he has to be here. Make my pylon there. And if you wonder why I don't make my pylon here, it's because I simply, like, you can do it, but I don't always feel comfortable with it. It feels kinda all-in-ish, like it's easier for him to deny the pylons then. So I generally just put it down here, feels slightly safer. And then, now should my gates be finished, you see they have a couple of seconds left, and then you should like start transforming them 5:15 pretty much at the best, which means you will start warping in and at least 5:25, like that's when you can actually begin warping in. Maybe earlier. I haven't like executed it perfectly before because, as I said, it's a pretty technical build. But yeah, 525, 520 maybe even. You should be able to start warping in, and as you can see, that's pretty darn early compared to most other 12 or 13 gates and builds like that. So this guy is actually going 3-gate robo, and he's kind of greedy. Has skipped on the sentry, and this replay goes to show what happens when they skip the sentry. Boom, warping in. 540. Normally, warp gate research is finished now for most, and they start morphing in, and then they're ready by 550. So what you have is around 15 seconds from the time you warp in to he can actually warp in, and 15 seconds with all these units compared to this, can actually do a whole lot of damage. So I just go in, and it's not like you have only one warp in either. You're only 3 gates, so no problem. And also, after first warp in, feel free to just add a robo. It will slightly delay your second warp in, but overall you can just add a robo and still be pretty fine and just continue attacking. So I get in, trap the stalker, shoot some probes, focus firing, and now like he has one zealot which I focus fire, and after that he has to try and kill my units with probes. And like he eventually cleaned this up, but now he has only one sentry Z unit. He has lost insane amounts of mining time, and he has 70 to 21 probes. I should probably make 22, since I lost the probe originally. And I'm not even done yet. I can just go on and pressure him and continue. And like, even if he used a force field there, it won't last. He won't get the gas enough to keep going sentries pretty much, because of how much mining time he lost and how few probes he has. And even if he should, like, if I could just force more and more sentries while I am adding tech myself, I can like gain up not only an economical advantage, because I have that already, but I can also gain a tech advantage. And when I have advantage in both those fields, it's pretty hard to actually lose from there. But this guy isn't all aware, and suddenly he has to GG because he has nothing. And that is what happens when people try to go greedy against this build. It's pretty much as aggressive as a 4-gate almost, but at the same time you get a robo, you get more probes, double gas. So overall I would say it's kind of 4-gate in an improved form, or whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to show you what happens when they're not that greedy. Now what? Replay. I think this one should be good. And this is against GG Orc, or however you pronounce it. Member of Gosu Gamers, which I believe had to quit or something. They had to put down their team. Now I'll lose this game, but regardless, it goes to show a reaction which it often often fools the opponent, I think, because a lot of people think that you are actually 4-gating when you are doing this, and then they will go overly defensive, and suddenly they won't have the same tech and same gas and same probe count as you, because they're afraid of your aggression. And especially sentries, you will see a lot of them force, unless I'm mistaken. So yeah, just going around, scouting, moving out, chrono boosting, hiding my probe here, putting up there so I can warp right up here. Slightly later, more warp in. So now, okay, he gets my one stalker, but look already, with the first warp in he now has 3 sentries. free. That's 300 gas he just wasted. He has one stalker only, compared to my 3, but those in total cost 150 gas, while his sentries and his stalker cost 350 gas. And that's suddenly 200 gas, which you have, which your opponent doesn't have. He has actually gone pretty good at eco on this, so we're somewhat even in eco. But as you can see, he has no tech yet, and immediately after the first warping, you can immediately add down a robo. Actually, I have. So now you can see I'm ahead in tech. I have more gas than him. The only advantage is he has a couple of more probes, and it's hard for me to attack him right now. That's pretty much it. But overall, like, damn it, that's not. Sorry about that. What I wanted to say was, overall, I'm not behind. Like, he can deny all the aggression he wants. He can deny it all. But even if he denies it all, he is still not ahead because of those sentries which are forced. So now I can either choose to continue poking, and here comes the 4 sentries as well, which means 450 gas, which delays tech quite a lot. So I can either choose to continue aggression and like fake it even more, or I could just go back, go home, and continue with my production and all. Now, yeah, that's kind of the point of this game, just to show that right now he has no tech whatsoever. He has no robo yet, as far as I can see, while mine is finished. And yes, I actually go as greedy as to go on a Nexus. And normally this is okay. Like, when having spent so much gas, I can hold pretty much all ins coming now, because it's either pure gateway or it's going to be very delayed. The problem though is that he later in this game goes for War Prison counter all in, if you want to call it, and because of it, it becomes pretty hard to actually hold. Like, you don't have this choke where you can just force field his 4-gate units out. Instead, he just splits them into 2, and one just charges up the ramp, the other get carried by transport and warps in the mineral line, and it's pretty hard to deal with. But I had some bad control as well. So, but overall, like, I mean, this guy is a semi-pro, and I still managed to force this reaction of him, and I think it speaks volumes of how good this opening is. So yeah. Now, of course, it might like seem that it's got like either it wins because your opponent hasn't prepared, or he prepares too much and you die. That's not always the case, though. There is actually a counter to it. Got a replay of it. Where was that? There we go. So yeah, there is a counter to it. I'm going to show you in this replay the way to actually get ahead against this. So it's me versus Prodigy, a Protoss I met in the I don't know how you pronounce it, but you know, the Z33K EU dailies. Met this guy, mid master on the way to high master, I think. Pretty much the same position as me. So I tried to do this build. He seems to recognize it, so he adds a second gateway. Stalker. In the end, triple Stalker is the only real counter, I would say, to this build. It's like the ultimate counter you have, simply because you only have one Stealth and one Stalker with this build. You don't get a second Stalker. So triple Stalker is pretty good at denying the proxy pylon, and once the proxy pylon is denied, you can't really punish him. And even if you should like get the first warp in, 3 Stalkers can somewhat fight back against the limited army you have at the time, and it's not too hard to chrono boost 2 additional Stalkers from the gateways, and thus you can actually get ahead. Now it doesn't add the second gas yet. I'm not sure why, if he feels too uncomfortable to do it or what. But there he adds it. Adds enough bird gateway just in case my units get cleaned up with some good micro. He carefully snipes it and doesn't lose anything. I should have been able to kill maybe one of them, but yeah. And there comes 2 more units produced from the gateway, which pretty much lets him actually hold it. And yeah, then I've wasted a pylon, and like, it's not too bad if you don't lose both your units, but I lost both my pylon and both my units, which means that I can't do anything to this guy at the moment. Like, he's not necessarily ahead in tech or in production or unit or economy or anything like that, but just in terms of army, he can just control the map, and I can't really attack him or anything. He can actually do pretty much as he pleases. He can expand, he can add more tech, because I simply don't have the units or the map control to actually threaten him at any point for the next couple of minutes at least. So yeah, Triple Stalker is pretty much the ultimate counter to it. And it's the only time I've actually lost pretty much with this build. But other builds should be entirely fine to handle as long as you have good control and decision making, knowing when to back off, knowing when to tech, when to not tech, going back, and ultimately it often leads to a macro game. I think I got a replay of it as well. I'm just going to check. No, but okay. The point is that as long as, like, if you just force those sentries retreat and then either expand or just add some tech and then expand or something, then you can pretty much transition into a normal macro game if that's what you prefer, or you can just follow up with an all-in, like Colossus all-in, Chartered Archon all-in. Especially all-ins with massive units or some way to bypass force field is pretty good, because you force so many sentries that you can't really afford much else. So if you, for example, just switch over to Blink Stoker and do some kind of all-in or pressure with that, you could probably do a lot of damage, because you won't have fast tech, you won't have fast immortals. You will probably have a lot of salvage, which you should be able to kite if you just use your blink correctly when you force fields and such. So yeah, overall, you can follow it up pretty much any way you like. You have the gas for it, you have the economy for it, and I've tried a lot of different approaches. All of them seem to somewhat work. But yeah, way to bypass force fields are pretty good. So Colossus all-in, which you can stump force field with, Charged Archon all-ins, which you can also stump force field with, and especially Blink. And that doesn't have to be an all-in as well. Like, one base Blink Observer is pretty common into an expand, so just some blink harass and blinking in and do some damage, and yeah. Like, you start damaging him and then you continue with something which exploits that and damage him some more, and then ultimately you should be able to carry yourself ahead and win the game. So yeah, that's pretty much how that PvP build is played, and yeah. Thank you for watching, and hope it was a learningful experience.